When you hear the term rare bee in Bee Swarm Simulator, your first thought is probably a gifted mythic or some sort of event bee. Well, as it turns out, Bee Swarm Simulator has a history of rare bees, some of which are so rare you can't even obtain them anymore. So in this video, I'll be revealing the mystery behind Bee Swarm's rarest bee. 2018, March 23rd. This was the day that Bee Swarm got released, and at the time, the rarest bee was just a legendary, which honestly wasn't that big of a deal, because with a bit of playing, anyone can get a legendary. It wouldn't be until a bit later when things would start to change. December 3rd, 2019. Now this is where we started to see our first form of rare bee, because this was the update where mythic bees were added, those being the vector, spicy, and tadpole bee. With a 1 in 25,000 chance to hatch one, it was obvious that this was a big step up from legendaries. Over the years, Onnit has added a few more mythic bees, which basically make gifted mythic bees the rarest, but that begs the question, well then what's the rarest mythic bee? Believe it or not, there's actually an answer. Well, now you're thinking, well how can one be rarer than the other if they all have the same chance of being hatched? Well, that's where you're wrong, because in order to figure this out, we actually have to look at when the bees were added to the game. For example, Tadpole Bee was added in late 2019, whereas Fuzzy Bee didn't come out until 4 months later in early 2020. This makes the Fuzzy Bee rarer, because this means that there was a 4-month period where you could hatch a Tadpole Bee and not a Fuzzy Bee, giving players 4 more months to hatch Tadpole Bees instead of Fuzzy Bees. So if we just apply that logic here, then does that just make the most recent mythic bee the rarest? Well, that's kind of where we run into a problem, because if you remember in the last update, there were actually 2 mythic bees released, those being the Buoyant Bee and Precise Bee. But after a bit of searching, I was actually able to conclude that Precise Bee is rarer than Buoyant Bee. This is because of the Robux packs. But what makes the Precise Bee rarer than the Buoyant Bee is the fact that the Precise pack costs more Robux, with the price of the pack clocking in at 1,700 Robux, while the Buoyant pack was only 800. This means that it was 900 Robux easier to get a Buoyant Bee than it was Precise. So now you might think that that means that gifted Precise Bee is the rarest bee, but it actually doesn't stop there. When I was listing updates for rare bees earlier, I actually left one out, and that was the 2018 July update. This update brought along some fun features such as Onnit quests, Star Haul, Ant Challenge, and much more, but my focus is on the new feature that this update added: First Edition Bees. First Edition Bees are basically given to you if you obtained an event bee during the first release. This basically gave your bee a little cool flag on top, and in the case of Bear Bee, it actually made your Bear Bee gifted. This is so important because first edition bees can only be obtained upon release of a new event bee, and since Bear Bee was the first event bee, you would have to travel all the way back to 2019 just to get one, meaning that this bee isn't even possible to get anymore. So does that settle it? Is a first edition Bear Bee the rarest bee in the game? I thought so too, until I saw this. This is on its hive in the test realm, and it might look a little normal until you see this. If you played in the Bee Swarm Simulator Ready 2 event, you might recognize this bee as the digital bee, and you'd be correct. For some reason, Onnit put this bee in his hive, and I mean, he can really do whatever he wants because he's the developer. This can only be accessed through him. So out of over 1 million Bee Swarm players, this is the only digital bee in the game, and it's an Onnit's hive. And so since it can only be accessed by Onnit, this does make it impossible to get, which does let us conclude that digital bee is indeed the rarest bee in the game. If you like this, subscribe because I might make something like this in the future, and trust me, you don't want to miss out on it.